so much for joining me in the Louie file this morning. May not be morning where you are. Today I wanted to talk just briefly about something that's could be a difficult subject, but I hope I can make it simple enough. Why do bad things happen to good people? People say if God's all powerful and He's all loving and He's all good, then why is there evil? Why don't He just squash the devil and get rid of it? Well, I was asked that one time. I was at a jail sharing, and I just told the guy, I said, without choice there can't be love. So God had to set this whole situation up involving choice, which of course points all the way back to the Garden of Eden with the tree that was forbidden. But God had to give them that option, or else they couldn't choose anything. Without a choice, there's no will involved, is there? And if you're a Bible student, which I'm assuming you probably are, it's pretty clear that Adam did choose wrong. He rebelled, and he picked the forbidden tree, and it brought in a curse to all the earth and all mankind. Back in Genesis chapter 3, right after Adam and Eve disobeyed, God came looking for them, and and it was the serpent and the woman, Eve, and the man, Adam. And God started to explain to them what was going to happen now that they had done this. And He tells them that the earth is cursed because of it. I tend to think that it wasn't like God just arbitrarily up in heaven going, I'm going to put a curse on them because of this. It was actually that their disobedience and rebellion brought in the curse. It was set up this way. If you turn from God, then you have darkness and negativity and hardship, right? So in Genesis 3:16 and 17, I'm just going to read these verses here. It says, "To the woman He said, I will greatly multiply your pain in childbirth, and pain you will bring forth children. Yet your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you." Now this is a New American Standard Bible, but the King James Bible uses the word sorrow. You will have sorrow in childbearing. And then in verse 17 it says, "Then to Adam He said, because you have listened to the voice of your wife, and have eaten from the tree about which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat from it, cursed is the ground because of you." And it says, "in toil." Now, once again, the King James uses sorrow, and I'll clear up why I'm saying this in a minute. "In toil," or sorrow, "you will eat of it all the days of your life." I tend to like the word sorrow here because it applies to the man and the woman. So the curse of the fall, the rebellion, brought in sorrow for her during childbearing, and it brought in sorrow for him for working the soil. He was going to have a hard way to get food. She was going to have a difficult time giving birth. But what I'd like you to know is that this sorrow was a good thing. You see, God set this whole scenario up to where if we wanted to go our own way, we could, but we would have to suffer the consequences too. And He's saying, what? As much as I don't want pain and hurt for my creation, I know this is probably the only way they're going to come to see their real need of me. So He lets us go. Now, jump ahead a little ways in Romans chapter 1. I'm going to read one verse here. Romans 1. There's several verses here in the first chapter of Romans where God just gives people over, lets them go over. But I just want to focus on one. Romans 1 verse 28, it says, "And just as they did not see fit to acknowledge God any longer, God gave them over to a depraved mind to do those things which are not proper." So you see, God just lets man go the direction he's going. So no one will ever be in hell and be able to honestly blame God for it. They might do it out of being deceived or in rebellion, but they will have to be faced with their own decision one day to go that direction. So now let's move ahead in Romans chapter 8, verse 20 and 21. It says, "For the creation was subjected to futility, not willingly, but because of Him who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself also will be set free from its slavery to corruption into the freedom of the glory of the children of God." So creation, all of creation was subjected to futility. King James' word is vanity, emptiness, meaninglessness, hopelessness, futile, not productive. Sounds like the sorrow for childbearing and sorrow for working the soil, doesn't it? So what we see in these verses in Romans is quite an astounding statement if you really think about it, that God himself subjected creation to futility. He did this on purpose. He said, you have to get a taste of sin and the curse and the pain and the suffering and the sorrow. You have to get a full taste of that. And it says it's in hope that it will be delivered from its bondage to decay. See, God's looking eternally. He's looking further down the road. So what we tend to do is we say, oh, if God was good, why is all this bad happening? Or where is God when it hurts? Where is God when I'm suffering? Well, he's right there. You know, I like to say this. Where was God when Jesus was breathing his last on the cross? He was right there. It was part of the plan all along. Because he's looking for long-term, eternal deliverance. He wants us to be free for all eternity. Not just free in a temporal sense, right now, here in the earthly matter, in the earthly sense. All right, so I got one more verse if you want to go with me to Romans 11. Romans 11, verse 32. Another amazing statement. It says, "For God has shut up all in disobedience, so that he may show mercy to all." See, we're all in this thing together. In Romans 5, it says that in Adam, we're all sinners and we're all going to die because of being joined up to Adam. So God says, you know what? The whole of humanity is in rebellion and in sin, and they're going to have to suffer some sorrow, and I'm going to hand them over to it. But I'm going to do it in hopes that they will come to me and see their need of me. I thought of a really simple analogy for this. I've never had to do this, not that I shouldn't have, but I've seen where parents would catch their young child smoking cigarettes, so the dad or the mother would say, oh, you're a smoker now. And they would say, well, here, and they would give them a whole pack. And they'd say, you smoke that whole pack. Well, I don't want to smoke it. No, you smoke it right now. You see, the parent doesn't want the child smoking, not even one. But the parent understands that until the child sees the futility, the sorrow, the pain, the suffering, the awfulness, the sickness that comes from smoking those cigarettes, they will not have a heart change. They will not let go of that habit until they do. They have to be tired of it and sick of it themselves. The sickness and sorrow of that has to drive them to put them down forever. You see, God's looking for us to have an eternal joy, an eternal secure place with him throughout all eternity in heaven. So the temporary sufferings, you know, in 2 Corinthians 4, the Apostle Paul said these present sufferings are working for us an eternal weight of glory. While we look not at what is seen, for what is seen is temporal, but we look at what is not seen, and what is not seen is eternal. See, God has got an eternal plan, and suffering in the present moment is part of it in order to produce eternal glory forever and ever. So I hope this helps you today. I hope this focuses your attention on the unseen and the eternal and gets it off of the temporary and material suffering at the moment. But I pray that you've had your belly full of it and that you will turn and you will seek the Lord, and He can bring light to all of this and meaning to all of this in His own way to you. All right, thanks for watching the Louie File. I'll see you next time.